Am I the only person in the world that thinks that Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne look exactly the same? Like twins level of sameness? Like they look more alike than me and my own sister do. And I'm supposed to follow some kind of romance between the two of them. Fuck that. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, directed by Luc Besson, starring Cara Delevingne and Dane DeHaan. I actually really like this movie up until the two main actors opened their mouths. This, holy shit, what the hell was going on with this movie? Like, I thought I was being trolled for a second. It looks fantastic. Like, I'm not sure what the budget is, but it's got to be over $100 million. And it's clear they put 99% of that into the special effects and design, the overall full design of the movie. But holy shit, their main actors are terrible. Their dialogue writing is terrible. The fucking plot writing is terrible. This is like a made for TV movie, which is $98 million too much. Okay, look, I like Luc Besson. I really enjoyed The Fifth Element when I was a kid. It was easily my favorite movie when I was 9. And Lucy, I enjoyed despite having a severe problem with the entire premise of the movie. I mean, why would we spend all of our energy developing a brain that's 10 times larger than we need it to be? And there's some kind of organ in our brain that has telekinesis if you can access it. I'm not at all surprised that this movie is as stupid as it is. I could kind of tell, but I was at least hoping that he could pull some strong performances out of the actors. And he totally failed to do that. Those two are horrible actors, especially when they're given such crappy dialogue that I mean, almost the entire movie, Valerian, the main character, Valerian, is talking about, is just hitting on his partner, Laureline. And it was annoying in the first 5 minutes, but it just kept going and going. And then every time they had to pull a joke, it was just like a softball little joke. They hit every cliche in the book. And look, I get that this inspired Star Wars because it's based off of a French comic from like the 50s or 60s or whatever. But Star Wars came out 40 years ago, and it's kind of a little late to be making a movie based on a comic that was cliche 40 years ago. At least update some shit. Like, I'm sure they put a bunch of the cliches in there just because they're direct references to the comics, but they've been done so many times. Everything about this movie has been done 1,000 times. And yeah, I was impressed by the visuals. I was impressed by the design of the aliens, even though aspects of it didn't make sense. There was clearly a lot of thought put into the world, but man, they really skimped out on the script and like an acting budget. Which I mean, Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne are overpriced as it is. But I'll give the credit to Cara Delevingne. She did do a bit better than DeHaan did. DeHaan is like he looks like a teenage Leonardo DiCaprio trying to do a shitty Han Solo impression. And I'm not a huge fan of Han Solo as it is. I give him more credit than he actually deserves just because I watched him die. And believe me, if this movie could have actually surprised me at the end and not have them romantically link up at the end, if Laureline would have put her foot down and stopped it, or if Valerian would have realized, oh, we're better off just at the status quo, I would have been fine. I would have given it a bit more leeway. But man, this movie beat me over the head with something that was so obvious from the start. And honestly, I don't even know if I left at the right time. They were making out on a little spaceship. There could have been like 2 more minutes of movie. Could have been an after credit scene for all I know. I just had to get out of there. It was it was a good movie if you're like 13 and you just want to go waste time because you know you got 80 years ahead of you to waste time. I don't. I could die literally any minute. I'd rather not waste it watching Valerian. Clive Owen was in the movie for a little bit, then he fucked off for an hour, and then he came back and predictably, like I wrote down probably in the first half hour that he was going to be the villain because it was so obvious. There's no subtlety to any of this. Rihanna was in it. She was terrible. She did this little dance routine thing, and it was like, this is going to justify a drawn-out emotional death scene. It was totally undeserved. Overall, the whole thing is basically like how people in the 50s thought the future was going to look, but not updated by the people now, 60 years later, who can see a little bit more clearly what the future is going to look like. It felt too retro future. Like there's even a part where they were asking Valerian what his favorite music was, and he like nano, techno, and those were like, oh, that sounds interesting. What's nano music? And he says retro, and it's like, well, of course it's retro because it's available, it's accessible, it's easy. They went for a really safe move with this, and I really hope that they lose a lot of money on it because this was uninspired and bland. The performances were wooden and unconvincing. After seeing Dunkirk 2 days ago, I am in no mood to be watching a boring popcorn movie like this. I hate popcorn.